So why do I have a game log? I will show you guys what the game log is and familiarize you with it through this video if you've never seen it before, but let's get into it a little bit. So this is my game log. Very simply, it is a spreadsheet that I have made in 2018 or so that I use to track the names of the games that I have beaten and the dates upon which the credit rolled. Those are the only two stipulations. When I first started it, I tried to track how long things took, but my weird little brain decided not to do that because it was, when I was tracking that, I'd always be trying to do things as quickly as possible. And that's not the goal of this. The goal isn't how many games can I beat, how quickly can I do it. It's just, for nostalgia's sake, to just keep track. And it became something very satisfying to me. It helped me work through a backlog of games. It helped me play games that I otherwise never would have. For example, generally, when I play a game, I will always play it in franchise order and do the entire franchise one after another. That is typically just how my brain works. And because of having the game log, it became very satisfying to me to see those names, then those games, be put on the log and immortalized forever with a date next to them. And it's something that I will just never forget doing when I look back on it. Like, for example, if we look at Resident Evil right now, I beat a lot of Resident Evil games in 2022. So if we just take a look at that block of games right real quick, shall we? So Resident Evil 1 was finished on the 8th of May 2022, so 2.5 years ago. Meanwhile, I finished that retrospective playthrough on the 29th of May 2022. Playing through, how many games is that? 13 Resident Evil games in, what was that, about 3 weeks? And if we're being real here, I'm not sure that I ever would have touched the original 3 Resident Evil games, Code Veronica and Zero, if it wasn't for the fact that I have the game log. It was that I wanted them on there so that I could remember the time that I did them, so that I could be like, oh yeah, I've done them. Same thing goes with games like Ninja Gaiden, where I didn't expect to like them very much because I know that they're supposed to be incredibly hard, and to this day, to be fair, they are probably the hardest games I've ever played, and I've played pretty much every quote-unquote hard modern game you can come up with. Yes, you could probably say Lion King for the NES or whatever was way harder, and yeah, you're probably right. But if we're talking about modern systems that were like released in my era, I've probably played every hard game you can think of. I even catalogued the house move on here because it was just something fun for me. I liked knowing that the last thing I ever beat in my childhood home was Skyrim. That seemed apt. In fact, in 24 hours... Yeah, that's funny. In 24 hours, Skyrim released 13 years ago, which I'm going to make a video about as well. And then I can see that the first game that I ever beat was Modern Warfare 2 2022 in this house. And this will be here forever. I genuinely intend, like 20, 30, 40, however many years down the line, to still be using my game log and still be able to look back upon just different times. And I've got the sort of brain where I will connect different time periods with things that were happening in real life and memories because of that. So, like, for example, here, early 2023, late 2022, early 2023, with Ark Survival Evolved down to... Where are we going down to? We're going down to about Dishonored? Yeah. I absolutely rinsed content on TikTok that year. I grew an account from like 0 followers to 250,000 followers near enough, just posting 20 to 30 times a day clips of all of these various different playthroughs. And I had so much fun doing that, and every video banged. And I will, no matter how old I get, always remember the time when that was me, because of that block of games being on the log. I'll always be able to remember the time where last year I got crazily obsessed with Borderlands again for quite a while, and played through them on repeat over and over again, the entire franchise, and then did the exact same things with Dark Souls straight after that. Through the years that I've been posting about my game log on TikTok, I've had loads of people say that they wish they had have done it when they were younger. But the best time to start is obviously when you were younger, but the next best time to start is right now. Obviously, I've probably beaten hundreds of games prior to 2018 that I haven't been able to track, but I've tracked everything since then, and now I've got half a decade's worth of stuff on here, and I can look back at any given time and just think, God, that was cool, I remember that. I remember what was going on in my life when I did that. And otherwise, if we're being real here, us gamers that just sort of sit in a house a lot, the time sort of just blends together, you know? I remember this, for example, the first time I ever beat Witcher 3 was nearly 5 years ago. I can't believe that it's been 5 years. The game log helps me see just how much time is actually elapsing and helps me think, what did I actually use that time for? Which is kind of sad to say. Another one, when lockdown happened, I remember exactly when that was. The first game that I beat in lockdown was Tomb Raider in 2020, the definitive version. And then if you look, for the majority of that year, I was beating a game all the time. Because at the time, I worked at Tesco and it was before I started TikTok. So I had a lot of free time in lockdown and I was just beating games near constantly. And it was so much fun. So yeah, I love having my game log. It's very simplistic. There are very few rules. Like I say, it is very simply the name of the game, the date that the credits rolled, that's it. And I used to track the date that I began a game as well, but that became a little bit redundant given that the majority of the, not all the time, but the majority of the time, I will begin the following game either the same day the previous game ended or the next day. So it was always a little bit redundant to start tracking the dates of the dates begun, and it was a bad habit for me to get into to track how long it took me to beat games, especially given that not every game tells you how long either. I would have had to track that externally somehow, and it would have got me in the wrong mindset, and it would have made me try to speedrun a lot of games. And kids on TikTok already think I speedrun games because they don't understand that I just have a lot of hours per day that I can play because it's my job. I've always said it like this, right? If a game's going to take 12 hours to beat, somebody with a full-time job, kids, commitments, and all that sort of thing, that can only put in, I don't know, an hour a day might take 12 days. I could put in 12 hours tomorrow. That's why I beat games quicker. Oh, and for anybody wondering what the colours mean, the colours denote different years as well. At the end of each year, I give the previous year a colour so that when I'm looking back, I know just by scrolling like this when one year ended and another began. Like 2023 was a massive year for games because 2023 was the year that gaming became my job, or at least part of my job. My job is very all over the shop. Like, for example, there's this dude at Tesco who clocked me because of my gym stuff. And then he figured out that I also do gaming stuff. And he's like, it can't be the same person. I was like, no, it is. I just do a lot. And this year's been pretty big too. Like, how many games have we beaten this year? 106. But the problem is that this year I've slowed right down towards the end of the year because I've been so business focused in the last few months. Like, in the last 2 months, I've only beaten like 5 games, which is like, for me anyway, nothing. And generally, right, according to my analytics, the majority of the people that follow me here are on the older side. Like, over 80% of my YouTube followers are older than me, and I love that. And I do wonder, how many of you wished you'd have done this when you were younger? So, for example, I'm 26. If you're watching this and you're 10, 20 years older than I am, which is reasonable to expect based on my analytics, just how many games do you think you'd have beaten? Or, never mind just how many, right? How much satisfaction or joy would it bring you to be able to look back and be like, I remember the memories that game built me, and it was on that day. I know the exact day. Like, for example, for a lot of us, 11/11/11 with Skyrim, like I mentioned at the start of this video, is a big date. It is something we will never forget. I will never forget the midnight release of Skyrim, even though it was half my life ago tomorrow. Again, 26, and tomorrow it's been 13 years. And that sort of memory is something that's just going to stick with me as one of my more positive gaming memories ever. And having the game log, it's a way of immortalizing those memories just forever. And I think that's kind of cool. And I do wonder how many of you guys that have been gaming for longer than I've been alive, potentially, wished you'd have done this as soon as you could have done. And again, it is never too late. I truly believe that you should start it today. Because if you're watching this and you're 40, be real, you're going to game until you're dead. You'll be gaming until you're 80. You might as well start tracking now. You've got a good 40 years. Let's see what you can do. Why not? Like, right now, I'm just looking back at this year alone, and, like, time absolutely flies all the time. I can't believe how fast time flies. I played through all the Far Cry games in January. That's 10 months ago now. How is that 10 months ago? I remember I really annoyed TikTok because I was beating one Far Cry game every single day. Far Cry 1 on the 22nd, Far Cry 2 on the 23rd, 3 on the 24th, 4 on the 25th, 5 on the 26th, 6 on the 27th, Primal on the 28th, New Dawn and Blood Dragon, because Blood Dragon's basically DLC, on the 29th. And then, for the giggles of it, I then went and, oh, check this out. Dark Souls also on the 29th, so that was 3 entries on the 29th. And then Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, and Bloodborne also all on the 30th of January. So that's 3 entries, 2 Dark Souls games and a Bloodborne game, or, well, just Bloodborne, all on the same day. And it's the joy that it brings me to look back on this. Sometimes it'll be the middle of the night and I'll just look back on this. And also, I have the same thing for my films as well. Obviously, me and my partner go to the cinema really, really frequently, like once or twice a week, most weeks. And for years now, we've been tracking every film and every TV show that we've watched together. So, like, look at this. Avatar: The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra was over 3 years ago that we watched through those. It feels crazy that it's been over 3 years. And you know when you sat there and you're thinking, oh, how long ago was that? Was it really that long ago? Well, now we can actually put a date on it and be like, Jesus Christ, it was that long ago. Or just things like that. It's nice to know. It's cool to... I like nostalgia. I think that surprises almost nobody. And I think that a lot of you guys like nostalgia too. So potentially this is something worth doing for you as well. I don't know. Thor: Love and Thunder, over 2.5 years ago. What an abysmal film. Still very annoyed about that. God, that green's awful. My partner chose this green for 2023, and it's like, this green, looking at it too long, I might actually turn into the Incredible Hulk. Like, it looks almost radiation, what's the word? Irradiated, that's the word. There you go. Bring out my Fallout lingo. And 2024, all of Supernatural. So, like, it'll be interesting in 5 years' time to be like, oh yeah, I binged watched the entirety of Supernatural in about a month and a half, and that was when it was. I can have a look at exactly when that was. And that means nothing to some people, I know. But it means something to me, and that's what matters. I think that's kind of cool. So that's why I have a game log. I think it's fun. It helps you play games from a different perspective too, because like I said, my brain likes playing through entire franchises, and it becomes satisfying to put them on the log in the order that they came out, or whatever order you want to play them through. And it helps you potentially play games you otherwise wouldn't have done, like older stuff maybe. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you later.